Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining our webinar this afternoon. My name is Drew Gertis. I'm Early Childhood Director at Messiah Lutheran in Weldon Spring, Missouri. I'm part of the Executive Committee for NLSA, and I have the privilege of getting our webinar for today started. Today's webinar will feature a best practice in place at Christ Lutheran School and Church in Phoenix. This webinar was prepared by our friends at Christ as being produced by Concordia University, Wisconsin's Office of Continuing and Distance Education. We certainly thank our friends at Concordia for their leadership and support in this endeavor. Just a couple notes as we begin our webinar. There are 2 additional webinars scheduled for this month in October for Christ Lutheran. On October 22nd, they'll be sharing some information about their capstone service projects, and on October 29th, they'll be talking about their advisory program. Both of those webinars also start at 4 o'clock Central Standard Time. All of these webinars have been prepared by our friends at Christ Phoenix and represent best practices currently in place at their school. Live webinars are participatory events. We appreciate your questions and comments. Feel free to express yourself by typing in the chat box in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. All of the webinars presented this year are available on demand on the login page of the Lutheran School portal. You need not be a portal member to view them. If you like what was shared, we invite you to view a recorded webinar together with your faculty. Another great resource of Lutheran Schools is the LCMS School Ministry Facebook page. Our Facebook page provides another opportunity for our schools to connect informally. We invite you to share your encouraging stories on the LCMS Facebook page. Now, I'd like to ask you to join me in a short prayer before we get started. Dear Lord, we thank you for the many blessings of Lutheran Schools. Continue to use our ministries to reach others and share your gospel message. Today, we especially thank you for those who have ministry at Christ Lutheran Church and School in Phoenix. In your name we pray. Amen. Right now I'm going to turn it over to Cheryl Ehlers, who's the principal at Christ. I know she's got a great team of people who will join with her. So Cheryl, I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Thank you, Drew, and hi to everyone who's joined in with us today. Our presentation's on church school unity, and as you see on the PowerPoint in front of you, we chose a verse, Ecclesiastes 4, verse 9. The verse that is often used for marriage or friendships maybe, but we liked the message that 2 are better than 1, for they have a good return for their work. And that's kind of where we're starting from. We are in a place where in this setting in Phoenix, Arizona, our church and school together is better because we work together, and God has certainly blessed us. And so we wanted to share a few thoughts about what we've experienced here, and we know that, when it works, it's a real blessing, but it can also be a painful and ineffective relationship, and that's too often the case as well. And so hopefully some of the things that we share might be helpful in other settings and other places. I wanted to look at our demographics just to start with. In Phoenix, you see a few building pictures as you advance, and this shows us where we started in 1953. It's been a while here in this place, a very different Phoenix from what I understand. I wasn't here at that time, but when the church was open, they decided right away they wanted to have a school ministry. And so a year later, that was started here in an area that, is still dirt roads, nothing like we see now. We're in an area near Camelback Mountain, which if you've been here before, you kind of know that area. It's a real pretty area. It's certainly grown up since that time. And when the church began, they built their first permanent building as a school building, actually, instead of the sanctuary. And so I think that probably tells you a lot about the intentions of the folks here and their ministry and outreach mindset. We started our school in 55, so we've been around for 59 years, certainly in outreach of the church. And our structure is such that the church is the overall responsible party, and then we are a ministry under the church setting. So we currently today have 4 full-time pastors, 1 part-time pastor, and our school, which is under that church, we have a principal, assistant principal, and a great staff to support our currently 540 students. We have preschool through grade 8 here, and our church is approximately 2,500 members at this time. There are tons of opportunities in Phoenix. As you know, it is the capital of Arizona. It's the 6th most populous city in the country, and it's a very diverse place. The metro area is actually 4.2 million, and it's spread out over 60 miles in diameter. so our folks have in the past traveled from quite a ways to come in, and now we're becoming a little more regional, focusing on kind of that Camelback area. But we're in a place where you have to kind of picture the setting. We're near a very wealthy area, Paradise Valley, Camelback Mountain, but we also are bordering some areas that are not at all like that. And there's where English isn't the first language spoken, and where there's a lot of a higher level of crime and challenges. And so we're in an area, too, that though it's called the Valley of the Sun here because it's desert, it's sunny most of the year, it's awfully hot in the summer, it's certainly not about the S-O-N, the sun. It's not an overly religious city. It's not the Bible Belt where some of you might come from. And so a typical tour looking at our school or coming to our church is not typically someone who's a transplanted Lutheran from the Midwest. Most don't understand what we are. They don't come here for the Lutheran teaching necessarily, but they are wanting a place where it's, good values, quality education. They want us to teach their children how to be responsible citizens. And then from that point, we say, great, they're here, we have a mission field, now how can we really serve those families well and honor the ministry to which God calls us? And so that kind of gives you the background maybe of where we've come from, where we are now. It's amazing that people come here and pay us a lot of tuition really to teach their children about Jesus, because we're very intentional about that, and we're very upfront right from the get-go when they're here touring with us. I have a letter I thought maybe would be a good start. It was a letter from a member of the church who wrote this in as part of our exemplary notebook, where we have to get some feedback from folks in the community. And this is their view of our school and church relationship.
The Lutheran Church Missouri Synod places a high level of importance on Christian education, and the members of Christ Church Lutheran overwhelmingly support that mission. When Christ Church Lutheran was formed as a congregation, establishing the school was their paramount mission outreach effort, so much so that the school building was built before the sanctuary. It is no accident that when an opportunity comes for the school to expand through the new buildings, added curriculum, or increased staffing, the congregation unanimously and enthusiastically endorses the proposal. Christ Church Lutheran invests millions of dollars in state-of-the-art buildings, technology, and teacher education to ensure that the children who enter our campus every day are touched by the love of Christ as their knowledge of reading, writing, and arithmetic grows. There are many mission projects at Christ Church Lutheran, but we consider supporting Christ Lutheran School to be one of the most important personal commitments we can make. It's all about the children and providing an atmosphere to learn about God and, of course, the routine academics.
Thanks. So that gives you a little idea of what our typical church member really, where their heart is. We like the word synergism. And so you see on the next slide that word there, two are better than one. That really is how we feel. But if you look at the definition, it does say that in general, it takes two or more agents working together to produce a result. That's really not something we could ever get by ourselves, and we really believe that. And when we speak of the two, we're talking church and school, and we're also seeing that the definition means working together, and that is not a given. I guess that's not a given. It's great when it is synergistic, if that's the right word for it. When it happens, you know it and you appreciate it. And for us, in this season of time, we've been blessed with a lot of synergism, where we know if we were just a school, freestanding school, without our church, and I think the church would say the same, vice versa, we would not be the same place that we are now in terms of the vitality and the enthusiasm and what goes on, the ministry that happens here. And there are times and seasons when this has been probably better than others, and right now is one of the better times for us. Just as in any place, there are personalities. Sin enters in, we become self-centered, and things can go south really quickly. So, it's been our experience that leadership really has to set the tone, and we're fortunate to have some great leadership here. Benefits of synergism and unity can be, and I say can be because there's no guarantee that just because we say we want to do this, it's going to happen. But if you, we'll look at it, we have a picture of a mission trip, and it's one of our pastors in the back top left-hand corner, Pastor Dave Schmidt. He's got a real heart for missions, and so when there are the benefit for our school, I guess, in some of the ideas I want to share with you is that we have a pastor who's saying, let's bring school families along. We have a shared purpose. We talk about mission at the school. Well, now we've got a place to plug in our families. And so we do a lot of promoting of those things. The pastors are involved with our chapels, and they come and teach classes, theology in the junior high. They go on our 6th grade outdoor ed trips. And I mean, 3 of our pastors went last week with 6th graders and led hikes and did things like that. We are able to link congregational ministries to our school, and so that really is a benefit to us. It's a place where we can put teaching into practice, and we often send our teachers along as well, but that's huge that our kids hear it, but they see it too. It's kind of a holistic mindset where we try to direct family issues to the church and vice versa. For the school, we're aware of lots of ministry opportunities in our family, and so this is a place where we can plug in a lot of our church members and our pastors and lay leaders into the school too, and they have their own unique ministry touches here. Again, Kim has another letter that a parent wrote, and they specifically mentioned the benefit of having our pastors here involved in our school.
The pastors provide a seamless relationship between church and school rather than separate. The pastor's presence contributes to a fun and energetic environment for the kids and parents. There's a feeling of trust between the students and the pastors because they are visible on campus in a day-to-day manner rather than just preaching on chapel days and Sundays.
Now, there's a benefit, I think the pastors would agree, to the church as well, because when you're around on our campus, which is shared by the church and school, it's very vibrant, and they see the kids, the members see the kids, they see their families, they kind of keep us young. The picture that you see in front of you now is a baptism. That looks like it happened maybe in a church service, but that was at our chapel, a school chapel, where the parents wanted to come and have the baptism, you know, with the school kids. And so our pastors were there doing the ceremony, doing the, you know, the baptism, and the kids they burst into, you know, applause. They celebrated together. And there you see that our pastor, Jeff Schrank, our senior pastor here, is leading a chapel, and he always includes puppets and fun and relevancy and laughter. And it's a place where, you know, they see that church is real, and it has a place here. It benefits both the church and the school. So now these kids go to church. They see this pastor here that was at chapel, and they right away run up and hug him because he's so visible. It's a great place, and really 50% of our new church members come from school families and those relationships. So it's been definitely a blessing for us both. I know there's a video clip we're ready to start. It's of Pastor Dave Schmidt, whom I referenced earlier. He's one of our 4 pastors who are full-time here, and he is speaking again about those benefits.
I would say that the way the school helps the church is I like to sit in some of the new member classes, and invariably most of the people who are there come through the school. So we've seen a lot of growth in our church attendance by people who bring their children here, and they are exposed to the gospel and meet lots of wonderful people, and they decide to make this their church home.
So the pastors often share those kind of thoughts, that they see church benefiting from having these kids on campus and their involvement with church ministries. The other thing that we notice is that our kids now see pastors and youth pastors as well as our teachers, and they see them as mentors and they see them as role models. And so there's a huge means of opportunity for us to encourage church workers. And we see a lot of our kids after all these years now, we're starting to see the generations who once attended here teaching with us, and that's been great as well. So it's a great way to recruit some new church workers for the future. Kim also has a letter about the parents' positions about how much they appreciate our pastors. Here that is.
Our pastors are fathers and parents themselves. They just understand how things go, how there can be good times and challenging times in a child's life. My child has always felt accepted and loved in the CLS environment. I believe that the pastors have a hand in creating the loving environment at Christ Lutheran School. It is good to know that there is an authority that the school can call on in time of need or crisis that will have a Christ-like perspective. And it is a blessing that the staff and pastors pray for our children. We love that.
So the benefits to both of us, in addition to what I've shared are more tangible. Our facilities, for instance, are so improved because we've been building together. We built 3 new buildings in the last few years, and so we share those facilities, and that comes from pastors who say, we are going to use these buildings. Nobody has a room that's solely their own, and we share them. And so we do that. We have a lot going on. We have that kind of attitude. We share staff, and we share resources. And so that's been really helpful, and it's allowed us to do more with even less because we have that kind of mentality. And again, that wasn't always the case in the past. That's had to be developed and grown and fostered, and that comes from our pastors' leadership. I have one last video before I introduce to you our pastor, Jeff Schrank, who is our executive pastor. One of our teachers, Bonnie Merritt, spoke to the benefits that she sees as a teacher here, a 6th grade teacher, as she looks at the church and school unity. And we'll run that clip now.
When we arrange for taking 6th grade to outdoor education, we have come to the process of taking staff with us, and it's been a very rich blessing that our pastors, when they possibly can, do join us. And for example, this year 3 of our pastors will be coming along, and they lead activities, take the students hiking, and just spend the time with them. It's really relational, and that's what we're after, is to build relationships so that later the students, sure, it's fun while we're there, but later the students, should they seek more information about baptism or their faith walk or questions at home, they do know the pastors and they feel comfortable. And I've been in some situations with students like that where, for example, Pastor Jim brought up a picture of outdoor ed where he was there with that particular student, and they talked about their memories of that together and then moved on into their questions. So it's just a great relationship building.
So at this time, I'd like to introduce our executive pastor, Pastor Jeff Schrank, who is such a cheerleader for our school and is the reason that so much good has happened in terms of our relationship. And I'm sure he's got some unique perspectives from his role.
Well, it's my privilege to be able to speak to you today. I'm told I have an opportunity to speak 3 hours. I really appreciate that because they give me that opportunity. Those of you that are educators, who certainly I want to thank you for the work that you do for the kingdom of God. The Missouri Synod would do much better if, in fact, you would have people who would acknowledge that school ministry is our ministry as a denomination. In this particular place, I would say that church and school unity is an art, not really a science. No 2 settings are fundamentally alike, but I would tell you 3 things that would be helpful in our place. Who is your staff? And I would have to make a clear shout out to Cheryl Ehlers, who is on the mission field, was on the mission field with her husband, Jeff, in Thailand. And I would tell you the concept, ultimately, without a missionary heart at the top, the rest of it really doesn't work. And so there's no like magic answer except people's hearts who are interested in finding the lost for Christ. So I would have a tendency to ask people whether they have interest in evangelism before they would come onto your staff. 2, we've had the physicality of combining offices, that we are, to be very fair, we are cheap people. And so ultimately we try to use our resources for the sake of the kingdom, and so we try not to waste money, and we try to, as Cheryl has said before, we do not have dedicated space, generally speaking, so that we can save resources. In addition, we have intentionally symbolic events. Everybody watches things and they want to know, are you getting along? And I will tell you this, people will not give you resources financially unless you're getting along. If you don't get along, they're going to keep their money back because they'll go find other people who do it much better. In my experience here, I would tell you, God has blessed. You know, it's a little awkward to have these kind of conversations as if somehow we have a 10-point plan on how to do this. I would actually tell you it's the favor of God on a place, and therefore our responsibility is to manage, if you will, the gifts that we've been given at any given time. You know, to him has been given much, much more should be required. And so you have to analyze your current setting in a realistic way, you know, create a future desired goal. But if a pastor's listening to this or a principal's listening to this, to be very blunt, it's up to you. Ultimately, teachers, leadership are those who actually are driving the bus, and the other folks are on the bus. the idea that really you are doing God's plan. Are you where God wants you to be, and are you doing what God wants you to be doing? And begin to pray. You know, timing is everything. Is this the right time, fundamentally? But I would tell you that leaders and members must believe in the potential. They must have buy-in. That I guess speaking directly, I have a strong opinion that if you're paying people, they should be going in the same direction. And if in essence they are not going in the same direction, then God is telling you to go to a different church or a different school. Because ultimately our responsibility is to have people try to do the very best we can for the sake of the kingdom. This is fundamentally about heaven and hell. It's about children being connected to the Lord Jesus Christ. And if a pastor, again, is listening, I would say to you, embrace your school. Don't just manage your school. Embrace it with everything you have for the sake of the kingdom. It's my privilege to be present here in this school. It's my privilege to be a father who had 3 kids graduate from this school. And I appreciate wholeheartedly all of you educators who have sacrificed your lives and your ministries that you might indeed serve children. God's grace to you.
Thanks, Pastor. And it's really everything that Pastor shared with you right now are things that we hear regularly here. The communication of that message is shared with all of us, and that's huge in terms of buy-in. And so when we make calls or have hires in the church and the school, we usually do that together. We talk together, we interview together, because we want to get a read that both of us feel this is a good match. And I think that's huge. And it's also important that when those are not good fits, you have someone who isn't aligned, that you've got to make that change. Even though it's painful, you do it in a loving way, and that's been a huge part of, I think, the unity we currently feel. That's so critical. And so there's no, science to that either. It just is really something you have to work hard at and together. I wanted to share one thing, and it's a little bit, I don't know, it sounds schoolish maybe, because it's a philosophy it's a model that we found helpful. We have the same philosophy of ministry. It's a mission field mentality, and the Sogard scale that's in front of you now is taken from some work by Viggo Sogard, who was a missionary in Thailand. He was a communication specialist, and that was his research, but he also tied it into some research written and some books written by James Ingle. And so the Sogard scale we've kind of adapted from, Pastor Schrenk was aware of it and liked it, and I had used it. My husband had introduced it to our mission field, and we find that it's a really helpful tool here on campus. If you look at this 2D model, what it does is it helps us to become a place that purposefully leads people into both the deeper relationship and commitment to Jesus Christ as we foster, their positive attitudes and their knowledge of Christ. So we're looking at how can we use this model to provide events and training to keep everyone kind of along that path. We totally acknowledge it's not what we do. It's the Holy Spirit who provides growing faith. But we have to be smart in what we do here so we don't hinder that growth, and that we can, kind of encourage it, as is our job to do. If you look at that model, going across the horizontal axis are attitudes. When we have kids that come here or families that come here, some actually come and interview, and they actually are hostile towards Christianity. They're resentful because of some experience they had in the past, and at best they're sometimes just that negative one, suspicious of what we're about, and yet they're here on our campus because of some friend who referred them or something they desire that we do here. And then it is our goal then to sort of take that into account. It affects maybe how I talk to them about the place, because I want them in so much. You have to be honest, but you are a little cautious about being too scaring, don't want to scare folks away. And the same note, you look at the up and down vertical axis, and you see that they come with sometimes no awareness of Christ. It's the -6. Or they might know a little bit about Christ. They know about Christmas, and they might be at a -4. But as they're here on campus, they begin to have maybe a personal felt need, if you look at -2 on the chart. And something happens in their life, and while we're involved with them, their teacher learns about a sickness or a death, and we begin to share that with our pastors and our community. And then there's some point of confrontation, and eventually, and I'm talking, it may be a lot of time, it may be days, but there may be that opportunity while they're with us that God works faith in their heart, and there's a baptism. And you see, as we go up to the knowledge of Christ, they're baptized, and then they're involved with the body of Christ and so on, and they become active witnessing their own faith. And as that happens, obviously their attitudes have changed too, because now all of a sudden going across that axis you see interest and inquiry. They start to ask questions that hopefully you have trained staff who can give them those kind of answers, and we accept them and they accept us, and eventually they're participating. And I think that model really helps us. And we speak about that at the beginning of the school year and say, hey, teachers, plot where you feel your kids might be. Probably most of them tend to be in the bottom green left bottom corner. And then the longer they're with us, our goal is to move them up and to the right. And we don't do that. Of course, the Spirit moves them, but we are instruments. And that's a really helpful tool. It might be something you can visit with your church, school, faculty, workers too. We found that to be helpful. And I just thought, let me share that with you. It might be something that helps you. Now, we're going to look at a picture in the next page. It's a picture that shows a few things about visual alignment. It's also important. The models are helpful, but we feel like that visual alignment, seeing, there's a picture of our campus a few years ago. It's not current, actually, but we had an aerial shot, and if you notice the church right in the very center with the high roof line, A-line, you'll see our newest school building. Well, our building was completed in 2009 to the top of that. And you notice those A-frames align. And that was a purposeful decision when we realized that that would speak volumes if we would let people see, and we mention on tours, hey, we're aligned with our church school ministry and we're all one and you have to view us that way. And so we've tried to create a community that will feel that way but also look that way. And so that's one of the things, when we talked about the Sogard scale, it's important that we plan for this community. We take our audience seriously, and if we don't do that, the Great Commission can easily become the Great Commotion, and we begin to speak almost at odds or not as if we're not aligned. And so creating a culture we think is really important too. And so that picture, if we move on ahead, you'll see our business office. We made a decision a few years ago that was probably one of our tougher ones, and it actually came from a suggestion from the church staff who said, let's put our offices together. And so we decided to do that, and we put our business office together. And then you see some of the folks who work back there, but you see they share files, they share activities, they cross-train. And while they're in that one big open room, as much as it's probably irritating if they have a phone conversation, they also are hearing each other, and they're collaborative, and they're hearing about things going on. They say, hey, I could do that. I could help with that. We should collaborate and work together. And that has really helped us to be aware of what church and school are all doing and to be, I think, better with our resources as well. You'll look at the next shot. We'll show our reception area where we have a couple folks out there greeting in a combined church school reception office. They both are aware of each other's activities. Nobody's just strictly one or the other. No, you don't go to this one for church and this one for school. And you see behind them a logo that was something we created also a few years ago. We said we want something that's kind of current, looks like it's alive, represents us both, and highlights Christ. And so that's kind of what we came up with. It was designed internally by a member who's very talented, and so we have that on all of our materials and share that logo as well. So anyway, the culture I think is important, and I think we have a fun culture. One of the reasons I think that we do, besides pastors who have a lot of fun with us, is our assistant principal, Mr. Doyle. John Doyle arrived here a number of years ago as a teacher, and he gets the fact that we have to create a culture that will help people want to be here and will sometimes surprise our kids and will always be a fun place for our parents to come. And so he's kind of taken it as a task to design some things that we can do as a community that will help create a culture that we want. How do we want to be known? So I'm pleased to announce or introduce to you John Doyle, who serves as our assistant principal. John?
Thank you, Cheryl. And just a little bit of a music for you. Good afternoon, and the reason I'm having that music is we want our school to be known as a fun and exciting environment. As much as possible, we want our staff to know that they are always being watched and not only represent Christ, but Christ Lutheran School. They might be wearing our logo one day, but they are always modeling Christ to the little ones or even, yes, the tough teenagers.
And that's whether it's with a smile, laughter, or having fun with fellow staff and colleagues. As leaders, we represent and model by our thoughts, words, and actions to the staff, faculty, and students on what the culture should be like. How can you not be excited about being paid to teach, serve, and show Christ to wet cement your students? We get paid to share the gospel and get more students to heaven. For me, it is fun and exciting to come to work every day and be part of the ministry at Christ Lutheran School and Christ Church Lutheran. You should and need to be excited to come to work every day. Our customers, yes, I said customers, parents of the students that are in our school, love to be on our campus. The family atmosphere is the key phrase that we hear on a day-to-day basis. If your paying customers or even the children that you get to impact on a daily basis do not want to be on your campus, then what does that say about your campus and your staff? Our philosophy, which comes from our head pastor, is that we should try something, and if it doesn't work, try something else. Through this, there are risks, no doubt. But if you are not moving forward, you are most definitely moving backwards. There are many things that we have tried over the years to get families involved on campus. Kickball games, students competing against their parents, no-brainer, easy, free, plus you get parents on campus to see what you are all about. Thanksgiving feast, church and school staff make it a point to give thanks every year for God's blessings. We have chapel in the morning and then proceed over to the gym where we have a meal, all 600 of us in the gym, both church and school staff, as well as the student body, preschool through 8th grade. There are two big sporting events or all-school assemblies that we have throughout the year. In November, there is a volleyball game where 8th grade girls play their moms, and in December, we have our 8th grade boys team play their dads. And for both events, the pastors are doing the play-by-play commentary over the sound system. They are leading the student body in cheers and songs. Another event we provide to the families of the school and church is what we call Trunk or Treat. Families decorate their trunks on Reformation Sunday and hand out candy to all the children that dress up. This is a safe and inviting atmosphere. Besides having Trunk or Treat, we have a church picnic and fun activities like various bounce houses. This is something to think about as an organization. Try to have a bunch of significant events on one day rather than little events on a bunch of days. Why have a bunch of little parties when you can have one big party where there is a lot of people? Besides having fun, we also understand that during serious or troubling times, we help each other, pray with each other, or just listen. If there is a discipline matter that is handled within the school and something is mentioned that needs a professional counselor or pastor's opinion, it is wonderful to have the opportunity to walk down the hall and ask one of our pastors to schedule some time with a child, parent, or family. Here are some slides that indicate just a little portion of what we're about. First slide that you see is "Your kids are loved." This is a marketing slogan that we had up during our open house season and on a major thoroughfare with a lot of traffic. We not only say it, but we believe it. Next slide would show that pastors love our jumpy toys and provide those at all our various activities. The next slide shows that many times throughout the year, the pastors and staff dress up in various costumes. Parents can purchase at our auction birthday celebration where they show their name on the front sign, and then our pastors get dressed up and go and sing to the students during class. Next slide actually shows sometimes it's just a being crazy and going for a dip when you flood your field. So I apologize for the technical difficulties in regards to our video, and if we can get that up running, maybe we'll show that at the end. The next person I'd like to introduce is Pastor Jim Kirkman. He's a wonderful leader in our organization. Not only do the students look up to him, but so do I, and I'd like to pass the phone off to him.
Thank you very much, John, and hello, everyone. I am one of the assistant pastors here, and I'm very, very privileged to be on the ministry team here along with all of these other wonderful, wonderful people. And I don't really have anything probably incredibly original to tell you because so much has been said already, but I think that truthfully a few things that I would share are the understandings that here at Christ we all have the same focus and understanding, whether it is the pastoral staff or whether it is the school administration and teachers, and that is we are focused on the children. And I think that another thing that I would state is that we take our jobs very, very seriously. We work hard here at Christ Church Lutheran and Christ Lutheran School, but we don't take ourselves too seriously. We know how to have fun, and we know how to enjoy life, and to be serious when we need to be, but also to just enjoy the blessing of the children that God has put here in our lives. And it is truly a wonderful thing to be able to have a ministry where there is such camaraderie, such closeness, and such openness between teachers and the pastoral staff. I believe that each one of the pastors has the same understanding of the ministry of the church to the school, that we are all aligned, and therefore each of us is very, very involved in different aspects of the school, some crossovers, but a lot of unique opportunities that each of us is presented with and takes advantage of in regard to being a part of the school. And vice versa, there are teachers who are incredibly devoted to the work of the church and are very, very visible on Sundays and other times in doing, children's sermons and things like that. And so my opinion is that what the leadership is doing and the actions and the attitudes that they reflect are going to be what everyone else in the community ultimately kind of reflects in their lives and in their actions. And as I say, we enjoy working with one another very, very much here. We enjoy children immensely, and we have a lot of fun. And when it is time to be serious, we indeed are, but once again, we understand the blessing of these children. We understand also that these children are with us for a limited period of time, and therefore it is very, very important that we impact their lives for the sake of the kingdom in a very profound way, and in ways that will carry with them well beyond their years at Christ Lutheran School and maybe even Christ Church Lutheran. So once again, nothing incredibly profound, more simply just love children, enjoy your coworkers immensely, and have fun. And that would probably be one of my recipes for success in ministry. So I truly appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and pray God's blessings on all of your ministries and the way that God will work in your lives and in the lives of those you have the opportunity to come in contact with. So God bless you.
Thanks, Jim. The last video that you will be seeing is a video clip about what Pastor Jim means to one of our students.
I have a really awesome relationship with Pastor Jim. I've been going to Christ Church Lutheran my whole life, and Pastor Jim and I have worked at camp for 2 years now, and he's helped grow my faith and just helped me through school, and he's been an awesome theology teacher, and he's one of the best guys I've ever met.
At this point, we would like to open it up to any questions you might have as an audience and field those questions.
As I give everyone their voices back, you can also feel free to chat in the chat box on the bottom right corner of your screen.
I think someone asked us a question about whether or not the Sogard scale could be made available, and I'm sure we can figure out a way to do that. We'll work with you guys in seeing how that could be posted, or you could email us, or we'll put it online somehow. We'll follow up with that because that might be helpful for some of you. Any other questions that I'm looking over here that we have added in? Any others? Okay, then I'm going to move ahead, and if there are some, we can always stop. I just have a couple more things to highlight before we conclude today. Just that financial decisions are certainly one of the areas that I'm sure we can get most frustrated with, and probably where problems would tend to crop in more quickly than other areas. And basically, money is a tool that can make or break us. And in our setting, we purposely have a unified budget. Now, under that unification are a church and a school sub. We are responsible for our budgets and for being resourceful and smart and doing good things with the resources we have. But overall, there are some years where a church might make money, the school might not, and vice versa. But overall, we have to be sure that we're liquid and we're solvent and we're being smart. We don't overanalyze every penny, but we try to share where we can. And if it's our job, if we're using facilities, then the school needs to pay for those utilities and things like that. So we try to be smart about it without being too picky about every dime spent. We work together on capital campaigns, too. And we've had, in the recent probably 5 years, picture you see in front of you was one in which we decided we were getting tired of doing this, but we needed a new building and we wanted to make it fun. And so we said, let's just go for a 28-day campaign. Let's involve everyone. Let's really challenge them to do, I think our goal was a $1.2 million project. We did 28 days. Everybody got so excited about it. We kind of just really hit everybody hard every day with some fun, colorful. We developed materials with the help of one of our members. Didn't pay anybody anything. Our costs were just mailing and paper. And we did it internally, and God blessed it so much. I think it was an attitude of, hey, we're in this together, let's pull together, let's make it short, and the result was a $1.5 million blessing from all of the members, and school and church both participated, and that was our goal, to continue to do these things together. And so that's how we continue to do campaigns. I have a comment from a letter that we got from a former congregational president. I think his comments are helpful, too, in the kind of attitude and atmosphere we try to.
Over the years, we've seen many church and school staff employee changes. However, the focus of Christian education always continues without change. Christ Church Lutheran supports Christ Lutheran School, and in return, Christ Lutheran School supports Christ Church Lutheran without it being an us and them finger-pointing relationship. We're in this ministry together, locked at the hip. Congregation, staff, administration, budget, office space, and the list continues to even staff filling in for each other when the need arises.
Thanks. And one of the last couple of slides I wanted to focus on was communication. I think we feel strongly that we need to tell the story, and how we present things can shape the culture. And so one of the things we did here that's unique, I mean, not so unique, it was simple. It was having speakers in our patio and on the campus, and when people came through, they would hear music. And I mean, it would be Christmas music, it might be hymns, it might be, if it's an activity going on with children, it might be children's music from a Christian artist. And so people would come and go, wow, that really makes me feel calm or festive, or that's really comforting to hear that hymn. And so it really did create a unique feeling for very little money. You see in front of you a picture of a team trip to Yarnell where the fires were this past, not too long ago, this past summer, I guess. And this is where we advertise those events both to our church and school families. We also try to encourage our teachers in their weekly newsletters, which here's a sample of one, that they really use that means to share what's their Bible story. Pretend a parent's never read the Bible. Can you re-explain what that lesson was in your class this week? Or can you, in this case, highlight an activity where our youth pastor, Pastor Jamie Holt, is pictured there out with the fifth graders playing on the field, and then they're inviting them to the youth activities on Saturday night. So how can we keep that in front of our families? The students make posters in support of mission trips that are sponsored by our church, and we try to even coordinate our mission offerings, chapel offerings, with the same things that our church is doing. So we're not hitting everybody, 4 and 5 times with things that are overwhelming and get to be too much. We also try to send letters from our faculty when new families join the church. We welcome them. We have a prayer email on our website, and we pass that on to our pastors. We do a Christ Connection activity where members are connected with a faculty or staff member, and they pray for them and encourage them. And then our programming, our last main point, I think, is that we want a community center atmosphere. We want to make it easy for families to be here. We want them to be here. And so the activities that we plan in light of the Sogard scale is, what kinds of things do we need to have to draw people from different perspectives here so that everybody's got something they can get excited about. We're trying to meet needs. We're trying to feel ownership, let them feel they are part of us. They family-centered activities, which you see in this slide, where families work together to design a model for our new school building. That was kind of fun. We try to take away threats and basically just make it a fun campus feel. And that's some of what you've just seen in the slides. Finally, as we conclude today, what can we learn from the metaphor that we threw out at the beginning, the Ecclesiastes marriage friendship metaphor? Basically just that growth takes time, it takes attention, we tend towards disorder and disharmony, like in any relationship, right? We have to guard our attitudes. We're selfish and prideful by nature, and so we have to be careful. when we get that way, we need to have somebody sit us down and be honest and lovingly confront us, and that we do to one another. I mean, we're not perfect at that, but we try to be lovingly honest. We make time for each other. We do plan together, but we better also have some fun laughs together. And so we've had a comedy club come here, and they pick at our staff, and it's a lot of fun. You know, we have to really like each other, and we have to like what John said. We like what we do, because if we don't, that's going to be so evident, and it needs to be more just than tolerating each other, or I'm going to just live this out till I retire. You know, if people have that kind of attitude, then we really have to encourage them to a new position or a new location, because oftentimes they need that and don't realize that themselves. So we know that we have to we are better apart or together than apart, and we know that we have to keep God at the core, just as in any relationship. And so that visual that's in front of you now that concludes the Ecclesiastes section is, I think, a helpful visual. Again, you've got the cord of three strands. It's not quickly broken. And for us in this video, in this webinar, the strands are the church, the school, and God at the center. And that's our prayer for us. Honestly, we don't have it perfect at all. We humbly share all of this with you, and we just want to wish that blessing on you, that God would bless your ministries and that you would find the same value in working together that we've experienced. And so as a conclusion, I'm not sure if you would be able to run that video that we couldn't see, at least on our end. It was a Christmas video, and we, about probably 2 years ago, decided, what can we do to send to our families that's a wish from the church and the school. And we had seen something like it done, so it's okay to steal ideas. We just adapted it to fit us, and we had some of our faculty work on that. So I don't know if that's coming up or not, but if it's possible, we'd love to end with that. And if it isn't, then you'll have to email us, and we'll send you the YouTube link, I guess. So thanks for letting us visit today. We enjoyed being with you.
I'm gonna put it out here for everyone to see, and we'll see if we can get it to go. If you can't see it or hear it, go ahead and chat that in the chat box.
this is Drew again. Thanks for showing that video. I'm in the mood for Christmas cookies now. I don't know if anyone's got any last-minute questions to maybe put in the chat box there, but certainly thanks to Cheryl and your whole entire staff there at Christ Lutheran in Phoenix for sharing some new ideas and just reinforcing how important it is to have that unity between your congregation and your school. So thanks so much for doing all that, for sharing that. And Tom, thanks for your work at Concordia University, Wisconsin, in leading our webinar today and working with all of our technology. So thanks, everyone. Remember, this will be archived on the Lutheran School portal, and make sure that you use that for your resources. Any other last-minute questions, go ahead and put that in the chat box. Otherwise, I think I'll turn it back over to you, Tom.
Sounds good. Everyone should be unmuted, so if you want to speak out your question in the webinar, you can also do that as well, as chatted in the chat box in the corner.
Thank you to the staff and everyone at Christ Phoenix. I'm just so thankful for all of you.
I think everyone must be writing out their Christmas list, so I think that's why everyone's pretty quiet right now. But thanks, everyone, for participating today.